Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Biscuits and SEC live-ish tonight. Got to do a recording tonight because Hammer is actually on the road. He is headed out to Colorado with our younger brother, and they're just headed out there. Hammer's headed home. We were in Virginia for our brother Cade, his graduation this past weekend, from the University of James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So we were glad to be back for that, to see him walk the stage with a business management degree. And so now they're headed back to Colorado. They are headed back in the van, which I will show you guys in just a second. But that's why you got just me solo tonight on a recording, not doing our typical live, because I also actually have an engagement that I have to be at tonight, a prior commitment. So that means you just get Boss Man solo tonight. So sorry for the little bit of the issues too, because you got Boss Man there that's behind the steer agency ad right there, because typically our format is two people. And so the format looks a little better with two folks. So we're just rolling with what we got here tonight. Maybe a bit of a shorter show here, just because I have to get out of here probably in about 45-ish minutes. So we'll see. I can talk to a wall when it comes to SEC baseball, SEC sports as a whole. So we appreciate you guys joining us as always. This is our 32nd show here for Biscuits and SEC Live. We should be back here live next week at our typical time. So be sure to check back there on our social media channels. Be sure to follow us on X, follow us on Instagram, and follow us on YouTube. You can find us at Biscuits and SEC across all of those platforms. And then also be sure to sign up for the newsletter. I sent it out today. I write it on Wednesdays. Hammer and I trade off on Wednesdays during the off season. And it's the Morning Biscuits newsletter. Comes to you for free. And it's got all the goings on around the SEC that you need to know about. This morning, it was all about the SEC tournament, as well as the NCAA house settlement and some other things that are going on with that, which we'll get into a little bit later, as you can see here in the rundown. But it's, as I said, free to sign up. It's some of the best content that we put out. We're really proud of it, and want to continue to grow it. So if you would, go ahead. You can go to biscuitsandsec.com/newsletter to sign up for the Morning Biscuits newsletter. And tonight, as always, we are brought to you by the Steer Agency. Football is all about strategy, just like winning in business. Whether you're dialing up the perfect play on Saturdays or looking to dominate in public affairs, PR, or digital marketing, you need a team that delivers results. That's where the Steer Agency comes in. They craft winning strategies that get you seen, heard, and ahead of the competition. Don't just play the game, control it. Visit thesteeragency.com and take your brand to the next level. All right. Thank you guys to sponsoring. Thank you to the Steer Agency for sponsoring us tonight. We are glad to have those guys on board. If you're interested in sponsoring the show or sponsoring a segment, we would be glad to be in touch with you. You can do contact@biscuitsandsec.com to shoot us an email, or you're always welcome to shoot us a DM across our social media channels. So, all right, let's get into it very quickly. Here is Hammer on the road. Rolling, 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 rawhide. Hope you don't have headphones in. Sorry, that's the last time I'll sing on this show. But that's a fantastic song. If you've never heard it, I'm sure many of you have. What a great show that was back in the day. But there is a Hammer right there in the passenger seat, and that's our brother Cade there in the driver's seat. And that is Hank's camper van. It's a Ford Transit that he bought a couple years ago, and he lived the van life there for 2 years off and on, going from Colorado all around the West and then back to Virginia as well, where our parents are at. So he got a lot of good use out of that van. Now he's driving it out to Colorado with our brother. They're taking a little road trip, may get a little bit of hunting in on the way. We'll see, but they'll get to see a couple sites and enjoy the van. And Hammer's taking it out to Colorado so that he's got it out there, since he now lives out there. So you can utilize it on the weekends to go camping and such. But as you can see too, he's got a nice little sticker board going on there. That's his closet. And he goes to any brewery, pub, what you can think of, restaurant, all of it, wildlife areas, preserves, anything he can find a sticker for, he puts it on that closet door. So wish them safe travels, and Hammer will be back next week, and we should both be on for the live next week. So, all right, let's get into the show here. So we got the SEC tournament going on. SEC baseball is in full swing. We had the weekend last weekend. Right before we get into it, let's talk about that just for a second here. So great graphic here from SEC Baseball. If you don't follow those guys at SEC Baseball, they do a great job. Want to give them credit for certain for making this graphic here. And so we had a couple of interesting series for sure. You had Vanderbilt get a sweep of Kentucky. That one was in Nashville, so it wasn't overly surprising, but Kentucky's played good baseball at times. So a big sweep there for the Vanderbilt Commodores. You had Oklahoma push Texas to the limit, actually. They won game 2 of that series, and so that one went to 3 games to see who was the ultimate winner, and then Texas came out on top in the Red River rivalry there and ended up winning the series. And you also had the Vols losing another series, yet another series that the Vols are losing. I honestly don't know how many it has been at this point, but they've lost a lot of series. It's kind of incredible that they're still ranked. But D1 Baseball still had them in the rankings in the top 25 this for the final regular season ranking this week. But the Vols got to pick it up. They got the talent to win a national championship if they can figure it out. But it's looking like this season the Vols may not repeat unless they get super hot going into the SEC tournament, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But also going into the NCAAs, they got to get hot or they're going to be out pretty quickly. So LSU as well, number 1 overall team in the country right now. They take 2 out of 3 from South Carolina. And then Florida remains hot, man. They've just hit their stride here in the second half of the season, and that's a dangerous team. That's a team that I wouldn't want to play right now if I was on the other side, and I certainly wouldn't want to draw them in my regional. And they're even pushing potentially, if they make a real run here in the SEC tournament, I think they're pushing for potentially hosting. They're on the edge of that, but I think there's a chance if they make a run to the SEC title that potentially you could see them hosting, and they may already really have one. I haven't actually looked at the projections, but I believe they're number 15, if I have that correct. I'll look it up here one second. But yeah, so they really might host a regional here already. Number 15 overall in the latest D1 baseball rankings. So if they make a little run here in the tournament, they're probably going to host. Which, if you talked about that early in the season, I don't think anybody would have said that Florida was going to host, let alone be where they are. So, props to the Florida baseball coaching staff and the team out there. They've done a really good job of figuring this thing out and getting on the right track, and they're getting hot at the right time. This is the exact time that you want to be getting hot if you're an SEC baseball team or a baseball team at all. We all know this is a streaky game, and so Florida right now looking like they could really make a deep run in the postseason. So also Texas A&M there, we saw them. Georgia continues to play well. We'll talk about Wes Johnson here a little bit later in the show. But Georgia takes 2 out of 3 from A&M. A&M pretty much done unless they can make a run here in the SEC tournament. And according to Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball, he made the point that he thinks that A&M has to make a run all the way to Sunday, potentially even to win the SEC tournament. So they got to make the championship game at the very least, or they may have to win it all in Hoover in order to even get into the NCAA tournament. So that's where it sits for the Aggies. We'll see where it goes from here. So, all right, let's look here at the SEC tournament bracket and just check in on where we're at. So we had Alabama take down Mizzou. No surprise there. Oklahoma gets a good win over Kentucky. And then you had Florida. They took out South Carolina here. And then A&M, that game was actually postponed until today. It was supposed to be played yesterday, but we had some weather in Hoover. And so that game got pushed until 9:30 a.m. Central Time, which is Hoover Central Time. So it was an early baseball game. It was like playing AAU again for Texas A&M and Mississippi State this morning. But A&M jumped on them, ended up winning that game 9-0. The score was not updated on the SEC website yet, but it was 9-0 A&M. They put, I think it was an 7 or 8 run second inning on Mississippi State, and it was pretty much over from there. The Aggies added one more and took out Mississippi State. So second round, we have Alabama and Tennessee. That game is currently being played. It should be almost done here, but the last I checked, Tennessee was putting the hurt on Alabama. Alabama tied the game, or actually they took the lead. It was 6-5 in the top of the 5th inning, and then Tennessee tied it up at 6-6, and then they opened the floodgates, and it was 11-6, I think, when I last saw, and I think Tennessee had just hit a home run. So looking like Tennessee is going to skate in that one. And then we've got Oklahoma and Georgia coming up later at 5:30 Eastern. At the time of this recording right now, it's 5:23 Central. So that game should be getting underway here soon. Alabama and Tennessee went a little bit late. And then Florida and Ole Miss, that game is later tonight. And then we'll have A&M and Auburn. That game will be tomorrow. Essentially, because of the weather, everything got pushed forward in the time slot. So we should have a great second round. It's looking great for the games later tonight. And then also should be a great game between A&M and Auburn. With all the talent on that roster for A&M, you just can't count them out just yet. And we saw Jason Lavalette. He was talking about Michael Early, and the SEC Network crew asked him a question about Michael Early and how the season hadn't gone the way that they had hoped. And he made the comment that, hey, we love that guy, and we would run through a brick wall for him, even if there was nothing on the other side. So A&M has a chip on their shoulder. I think they feel like they've been disrespected. And at the same time, like, they have played terribly. Like, they just haven't played that well this year. And so they have to make a run. And we'll see if they can get that done against Auburn. And then you also got Texas, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and LSU there already to the quarterfinals based on their seeding. And I think you've got really any of those 4 teams have the best shot to win this. But, hey, anything goes here. I mean, you have up and down. We've talked about it all season about how good the SEC is in baseball. So you got, Georgia's a top 10 team, right? You got Florida, top 15, Auburn, top 15, Alabama's a top 25 team, Tennessee's a top 25 team, talented enough to win a championship. A&M, former number 1 overall preseason, they've got enough talent to win this thing. So, it could be anything goes, but the teams that are hot right now are the ones to really watch. So I'm really watching Florida. I'm watching Georgia. And I'm also watching Texas, obviously, Texas and LSU. LSU, number 1 overall team in the country right now. Texas at number 2 overall. Both of those teams have played great baseball all throughout the year. And Arkansas has started to turn it on here late in the year. So it could be a free-for-all here in the SEC tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun, though, to watch. And, we'll have our eyes on it. So, okay, that is pretty much it here for the SEC tournament. If we had Hammer here, we could really talk a lot about it and go back and forth. But I want to get here to some headlines that have been going on. And really, I'm going to discuss a lot about what we talked about in the newsletter this morning. So if you don't subscribe to the newsletter, be sure to go ahead again, biscuitsnSEC.com/newsletter. Be sure to check that out. But the first one I want to get to here is Wes Johnson. Speaking of Georgia, we mentioned him at the outset of the show and just talked a little bit about Georgia here in the SEC tournament. Wes Johnson is the coach there at Georgia. He's been there for 2 seasons, and he's done a really, really good job. So let's check out here. Made this nifty graphic here about what the extension means. So remember here, a couple weeks ago, we discussed Mississippi State and the opening that was left after the firing of Chris Lemonis. And Wes Johnson was one of the ones that seemed like he was going to be a target for that Mississippi State job, along with a couple others. And there's a couple inside the SEC that are being mentioned as well now because we're looking at we had Brian O'Connor from UVA. We had the coach from Wake Forest and a couple others who were being mentioned outside the SEC. But the Auburn coach as well is being mentioned for the Mississippi State job. But Georgia got on top of it. They said, enough. We're not going to let this guy get away from us. which was probably smart. I mean, he's done a great job, as you can see here, in his 2 seasons at Georgia. Overall, 85-31, 732 winning percentage, and 2025 here, 42-14. They've had a great season again in Athens. Back-to-back top 10 finishes in the regular season for Georgia. Last season was their best season since 2008 when they made a run to the College World Series. So Wes Johnson has really brought Georgia baseball back to national prominence and back to contention. So got to give him his credit there. Well deserving of this extension here, which will keep him in Athens through 2031. The exact details of the contract were not discussed. Were not released to the public just yet, but he was set to make, I think, a little over $1 million this year. And so expect that number to rise, maybe in the high mill, like 1.7, 1.8. Maybe he even got over 2. So great move here by the Georgia Bulldogs to keep Wes Johnson in Athens and also to keep him away from heading to Starkville. So that was the first one that I wanted to get to. And then some other ones too. First, we got to mention, it's been a rough season for Texas A&M baseball, as we mentioned when we discussed the SEC tournament. But it's also, look, hey, all of y'all who watch the show regularly, you know that Hammer and I are Aggies. And so, look, we can just say it like it is. We can take our bias out of it and just talk about, shoot you straight on it. And shooting you straight means that A&M athletics, to some degree, for whatever reason, seems like the dang thing is cursed. And I don't know what the reason is. I don't know why. I think a lot of Aggies, I've seen this everywhere, and I kind of feel it myself. There's just, excuse me, there's just kind of some apathy, a little bit of lethargy as well that has set in with the fan base with A&M, because there is so much that is put in to the A&M athletics program, and money, your donations, your season tickets, like all this stuff. And A&M has promised championships, and they have not delivered across the board, whether we're talking about football, whether we're talking about baseball, basketball, any of the 3 major sports. A&M has really struggled in, or they get to a certain point and they're high up there. They're, have a top 10 ranking, top 5 ranking, what have you. And then there's a huge crumble that you see that is just like an implosion that it's hard to even explain. And that's what's going on right now with the baseball team. I can understand it a little bit with Jim Schlossnagle leaving to go to Texas. That whole thing was an unprecedented situation that, what can you do? And how do you, baseball is such a mental game. How do you really quantify that in a locker room, and how can guys overcome that? And some do. Some teams have the makeup of grit to get through that sort of thing. They had Michael Early come back, which kept the team together. But you see the results. The results haven't been there. Number 1 overall team in the country. They're in danger of being the first preseason number 1 overall team in the country to not make the NCAA tournament. And I say all of this to lead into what just happened with A&M softball. We can touch on softball here for just a second. So A&M softball, number 1 overall seed in the country. First time I think it's happened in a little bit that it wasn't Texas or Oklahoma. So A&M gets into the SEC tournament final in the SEC tournament. SEC tournament has weather issues, and so they end up naming co-champions, and the co-champions were Oklahoma and Texas A&M. And so Texas A&M flirted also with being the number 1 team in the country. They were the number 1 team in the country for 1 or 2 weeks during the season. And then now we get to the postseason, and A&M hosts a regional. They're number 1 overall seed, and they can't even get out of their own regional to get to the super regionals. First team ever in NCAA softball history to be the number 1 overall seed to not make the super regionals. So I don't know if Kyle Field is built on an Indian burial ground, or if College Station itself has ghosts, if it's built on an Indian burial ground. I don't know what the deal is, but A&M athletics, for whatever reason, seems cursed. Aside from that, you had a bunch of SEC softball teams make the NCAA super regionals. You had 9 overall SEC teams make the super regionals. So that was pretty dadgum impressive. And the SEC dominated softball all year. I think it was 13 or 14 of the teams out of the SEC made the NCAA tournament, which is incredibly impressive. But those 9 teams, that tied the record for teams advancing to the super regional from one conference. So that was Oklahoma, Florida, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. And if you had A&M advance, they would have been the 10th and would have made the record, but they did not advance. So, but congratulations to those teams. They're in the NCAA Super Regionals. We'll see who ends up getting to the College World Series for the softball, the women's softball championships. And so anyway, that's that on softball, but it has been fun to watch SEC softball this season. There's been a lot of good things coming off of the women's diamond. So keep an eye on the softball tournament as well. Okay, a couple more headlines to get to. One, I want to finish off here on the baseball front really quickly. So South Carolina, they hired Paul Manieri, the longtime LSU coach, who was either let go or retired. I can't remember exactly how they did that. But either way, won a national championship at LSU. He was the longtime coach there, had a lot of success at LSU. It got a little bit stale there at the end, and a change was needed. And obviously that has gone very well for LSU. But Paul Manieri was hired after a couple seasons off the bench, and South Carolina hires him to come in and turn around that baseball program, which has fallen on hard times and had fallen kind of out of the national spotlight after winning back-to-back national championships early in the 2010s. So he's supposed to come in, supposed to get the turnaround started, and year one does not get off to a very good start. One of the worst baseball seasons in South Carolina program history. They were 28-29 to end the regular season. They get bounced in the first round of the SEC tournament. And so late in the year, there was starting to be some chatter around Columbia about, okay, is Paul Manieri going to be a one and done in Columbia? Like, was this a mistake? Should South Carolina just completely, hit the refresh on it and go after somebody else, try to get a big name coach to come into Columbia and really fix this thing? So, we'll see if they end up doing that, but it's not going to be until year two if that happens. It was announced that Paul Manieri would be back as the head coach of the Gamecocks going into 2026. So he's going to get at least one more year to see if he can turn it around. I think the buyout in this case was probably a little bit prohibitive for South Carolina. It would have been a decent chunk of change to probably take on in order to try to go out and get another coach. But the interesting thing about this is that Manieri also said that he's going to keep the same staff. So no staff changes are going to be made. He trusts his staff, and they're going to just continue to do it. He feels like, this season, though it didn't go the way they wanted, I think they had some opportunities that they felt like they missed, particularly thinking, as an A&M fan, I watched a lot of the A&M series with South Carolina, and South Carolina, except for one game, really had a chance to take that series and should have. If you don't know what happened in game 3 of that series, you ought to go back and look. But A&M hit 2 grand slams in the 9th inning in order to win that series. So South Carolina had some chances this year. The wheels really fell off late in the year. They got beat, I think it was 22-4 by Auburn. So there were some issues there at South Carolina, especially late in the year as the season was obviously just going down the drain. But we'll see if Paul Manieri can get things going in Columbia next year. He's going to have to do a whole heck of a lot better than he did this year. So recruiting better be on. They better get some guys in the transfer portal, and they really need to shore up this roster going into 2026 if Paul Manieri has any shot to be the South Carolina coach for 3, even 4 years going forward. So we'll see what happens there. It will be interesting. We will have our eye on Columbia as we head into 2026 for the 26 baseball season. Another couple things to discuss before we get to the NCAA, which is it's a mess. It's always a mess. But so one thing to note is that Tennessee basketball star Zakai Ziegler, he's actually suing the NCAA right now, speaking of the NCAA, because he's asking for a fifth year of eligibility. And his eligibility has run out. However, he's suing because what he's saying is that my market value is 2 to 4 million if I can play another year of college basketball. And the fact that my eligibility is out is limiting my earning potential on the market. And so it's kind of an interesting, he's not an employee. There's all sorts of legal, hurdles, but I think he might actually have a case here, right? If anybody's out on the open market, they can do whatever they want, right? They can move jobs to make more money. They can ask for a raise. They don't have it capped that, okay, well, you can only make this for 4 years and then you no longer can make that. You on the open market, you can do whatever you want to do to try to make more money. And now you're being capped at the NCAA at 4 years. Obviously, this could have implications if he gets it done. I think there will be some legal mechanism to say he's only got 1 more year. Look, I think at the end of the day, it's ridiculous. I love college sports. I love the fact that you can redshirt and then you get a 5th year, or you just have 4 years of eligibility, period. At this point, like Zakai, just go to the NBA or go to the G League or go play in Italy or, go play in Greece. Whatever you got to do, your eligibility's run out. However, he's looking at this and saying, I can make more money if I stay at Tennessee or if I get in the transfer portal and go to somewhere else and somebody else picks me up. I'm going to be able to make 2 to 4 million. And truthfully, who can blame him? If I was set to make $2 to $4 million and it was being capped and I had the potential to play 1 more year and that was going to be my best possible earning potential, why would you not? It's worth a shot. So I understand what he's doing from that perspective. I don't love it because I love college sports and I love, how college sports was set up for so long. And that's when many of us came to love it, is how it was set up for so long. So we'll see what happens there with that lawsuit, but keep an eye on it. I don't expect it to be in the courts for very long because at the end of the day, these rosters are getting set. And so I think this one will probably be fast tracked. So on the basketball note, we also had Boogie Fland. He transferred from Arkansas to Florida, 5-star transfer. He's a guard, and he averaged 13.5 points per game this past season and had 5.1 assists per game. He also had that injury that kept him out a decent half of the second half of the year. He was able to come back in the NCAA tournament for a little bit, but was not fully healthy, I don't think, for the rest of the year. However, Florida, the reigning national champs, they get a big fish from the portal in Boogie Fland with that 5-star pedigree. So will be fun to see him in a Florida jersey next season. And then also, speaking of Florida, DJ Lagway, we've discussed it on SEC After Dark. We've discussed it a little bit on this show about how healthy is DJ Lagway. He's had that shoulder injury. He had the injury last year to his leg that limited his mobility in the late in the year. And so there was questions about whether or not he was going to be healthy as we head into 2025, into the 2025 football season. And it looks like he's going to be okay. So according to, I think it was Josh Pate. Yeah. So Billy Napier on Josh Pate's coaches series, he said the Lagway is throwing 3 days a week and he's going to be ready to go for OTAs. So that has to be big encouragement for Florida fans and also SEC defenses and SEC defensive coordinators. That gives them a little bit of consternation here because DJ Lagway is the truth. That kid easily could be a Heisman contender this year and he could win it. He's that dadgum good. Florida has a hell of a schedule, as we all know, but DJ Lagway, he's somebody who could put the team on his shoulders, and he showed that late last year. And I think that's only the start of what we can see from DJ Lagway. I don't think he reached even close to what his potential really is. And then also a source told Keith Nabuhr, I hope I said that right. It's Niebuhr of Gators Online. That's part of the On3 network. A source told him that DJ Lagway is healthy now. He's going to have his full arsenal. People have not seen his full arsenal, quote unquote. So sounds like DJ Lagway is going to be ready to rock by week 1. And he's been doing all of his PT and making sure that shoulder is right and making sure that his lower extremity is right as well, so that he is mobile and ready to aim and fire going into 2025. So that is encouraging. I'm glad to hear DJ Lagway is on the mend and looking like we're going to get him at full strength for the 2025 season. All right. So the last headline I want to get to too is, look, it's just another change in college football, and hopefully they get this worked out. But, we've seen a lot of issues with one of the big things about changing college football and changing college athletics is the problem with rivalries, right? When teams move conferences, as new deals are made, all these different things, the NCAA, all this stuff that adds up. You can look back to 2011, I believe it was. 2011 was when Texas A&M and Mizzou came to the SEC, and that took away the Lone Star Showdown for a long time up until last year. That was the first year that the Lone Star Showdown had been played in, I believe it was 11 years, maybe it was 12 years, all said and done. And so now, thankfully, we have that rivalry back. However, there's still been some casualties of rivalries that have gone away. Think like West Virginia, Pittsburgh. I think they played that game last year, but that was the first time that the backyard brawl had been played in forever. And those teams hate each other. They've hated each other forever. And it was always a great time watching the backyard brawl. That game went away for a long time because of the movement of conferences. Now, I say that because that leads into what we're dealing with right now, which is Notre Dame and the University of Southern California. So USC and Notre Dame, they only have one game left on their contract. And so this 2025 game is the last iteration on this contract. Notre Dame has said that they want to extend the series. They want to extend the series long term. They think that it's a critical rivalry for college football, that it is, just part of the heart of the sport is these rivalries, and that Notre Dame and USC have played, I think it's like 94 times. They've played a ton of games since like the 1920s. And it's a storied rivalry, right? I mean, the Bush Push, we've seen so many great players play in that rivalry, and it just produces great games. So I don't want to see that game go away. I know we're an SEC show here, but we love all of college football as well. And so I wanted to touch on this a little bit just to say, hey, like powers that be who are out there, please don't let this game go away. Notre Dame and USC on Saturdays in the fall. It's a must-have. It's a great spectacle for the sport. And two storied programs, two blue bloods, two historical programs who should play every single year. So Notre Dame has offered for this thing to go long term, this series to continue long term. USC has come back and said, we'll extend it for maybe a year, but because of our travel with everything that's going on with the Big Ten, because we have to travel all these long distances, and the fact that the college football playoff, we just really don't have a clear idea of exactly what that is going to look like. We don't want to necessarily extend this series for the long term. Whatever. That sounds like a Lincoln Riley cop-out to me if I've ever heard one. That guy, he just seems to run from competition. I don't know what it is about Lincoln Riley and going to USC, et cetera, but that guy just seems to run from competition. So they got to work this out. I think it's ridiculous that USC is playing these games. And also, at the end of the day, it's your fault. You guys decided to go to the Big Ten. You guys knew the travel implications that were going to happen when you moved to the Big Ten. And South Bend is no further than a bunch of the schools that you got to play in the Big Ten anyway. And half the time, you're going to get that game at home. So what is the USC athletic department even talking about here? I think it's ridiculous that they're balking at this and trying to, kind of pussyfoot around it, for lack of a better term, to try to say that, this storied rivalry could be a casualty of potentially going to 16 teams in the playoff, which, by the way, if we go to 16 teams, which seems inevitable, then they should play this game anyway, because it would be great for strength of schedule. And whoever wins that game is going to have a really great shot to be in the playoff. So why would you not play this game? I don't get it. I think USC's I think USC's reasoning here doesn't make any sense at all. So I hope they get this game figured out and that they extend it long term, because it is a great thing for college football. So, okay. Now, we'll finish out here with the last 10 or so minutes. I don't have a must-champ coach of the week for you guys this week or a biscuit of the week. I'm sorry. I know we said we'd get it back this week, but there was some shifting stuff in our schedules, and with Hammer being on the road, it was just a little bit too much to get together for us. But we will have those back as soon as possible. Hopefully next week we will have our classic biscuit of the week, and then our must-champ coach of the week as well. But to touch here, let's touch a little bit here on the NCAA and what's going on with the settlement and what's going on with there's a lot surrounding it. And I covered it here in the newsletter this morning, but I thought it would be good to talk a little bit more about it here on our show. So let's set the stage here. So we've got the House settlement that is expected very soon. The judge is expected to rule on that any day now. And we just are kind of sitting on pins and needles waiting for that to happen. The reason that it hasn't happened just yet is because the judge asked for the schools and the NCAA to come up with a proposal and a fix so that kids that are on the rosters right now who could be in jeopardy of being cut should this thing be settled. She was worried that these kids could get cut and that they would no longer have a roster spot. So she didn't like that. So she wanted to make sure that those kids would still have a spot and that they could be grandfathered in, and that over the next couple of years, these roster limits and as well as the revenue sharing could be implemented over the next couple of years, and make sure that we didn't lose those kids that were already on rosters. We're talking like walk-ons, preferred walk-ons, and maybe even some lower tier scholarship players who could be in jeopardy of getting cut because teams need to hit these roster limits, and teams also need to think about budgets in terms of who can they pay out, who does it make sense to pay through the revenue sharing, et cetera. So those amendments to the settlement were turned in. I believe it was about a week ago. So we're just waiting on the judge. And once that settlement comes down, what is expected is that we're going to have a lot of changes. We're going to have revenue sharing in college football, and then we're going to have these roster limits that I just mentioned. Two big changes that will be coming, not just to college football, but we're also talking about other NCAA sports as well. So that's the first point. The second point here is that Ross Dellinger has done some great reporting on this. If you go over, check him out on Yahoo Sports. But states are now preemptively, before this House settlement even comes out, writing into law that the schools within their jurisdiction, so within their state lines, state schools do not have to comply with these things, the House settlement, in particular, the money piece of it. So if we do this revenue sharing, and if there's a cap, say it's $20 million a year that is revenue sharing across the athletics department, that the schools in their jurisdiction do not have to adhere to that, which means that they could spend whatever they wanted on NIL. And these laws are also saying that the NCAA, or whatever the enforcement arm of the NCAA is going to be, they have a name for it, but there's also like the clearinghouse that is being set up with Deloitte. I believe it is. Deloitte is going to be the clearinghouse to help police this and police payments through this structure. The College Sports Commission, that's what they're calling it. So the College Sports Commission would be the new enforcement arm for college athletics. And these state laws are saying that these schools would not have to adhere to any of these enforcement mechanisms from the College Sports Commission. So that's a little bit crazy. So Tennessee already signed this into law. And there's also New Jersey, who is working on a similar law to say the same thing, essentially to try to give their schools a leg up and to say it's illegal for you to try to cap us. We don't have collective bargaining. We don't have any of that. We don't have congressional oversight. We don't have Congress stepping in. So actually right now it's illegal for you guys to say that our schools can't spend whatever they want to in terms of NIL and go out and offer these kids what they want on the fair market, on the free market. So we'll see what ends up happening there. And so it's going to be interesting. Now, that last bullet point there, P4 conferences are trying to rein in this with a contract, essentially. So again, Ross Dellinger reporting more on this, but the Power Four conferences have come together. The commissioners from the conferences have come together, and they have said they've circulated this document. So they have a working document basically that says that if you're in a Power Four conference, you have to waive your right to sue the enforcement mechanism, the College Sports Commission, and you also have to sign this. And if you do not sign this to waive your right to sue the College Sports Commission and to adhere to revenue sharing in the NIL structure that we've set up and the roster limits from the House settlement, if you don't agree to all of this, then you could potentially be bounced from your conference. So your conference affiliation would be stripped, and you would also, other teams within the Power Four conference, other schools, you could not play other schools from the Power Four conferences in competition, in any athletic competition. So that's pretty insane. There's a lot of routes you could go on. I would love to have a lawyer on this show to discuss exactly what this means. And I hate discussing legalese on this show and how much we have to talk about the NCAA and everything that's going on. I love college sports. I grew up, in the college sports era that we all knew and loved, which was amateur athletics. It was a beautiful American invention. And now we have to deal with all of this other stuff because of lawyers getting involved and suits and everything. And I think players should get paid for NIL. Don't get me wrong. But now we're just in a total mess. This is just such a quagmire from all fronts. All those points I just mentioned are a quagmire. And now it just seems like we're going to be in legal hell, in the courts up until the Congress steps in or we get some sort of collective bargaining. We've talked about it on the show before. It seems like we're going much more to a professional and pro model. And that's exactly where we're going to have to get. And this stuff will not stop until we get to that point of having collective bargaining so that there are rules in place and so that everybody agrees to the same rules. We've got caps on how much teams can spend, revenue sharing, all of that. But there has to be some sort of enforcement. Otherwise, this thing will fall apart. I just don't really know how on that last point there that the Power Four conferences with trying to rein this in with this document they're circulating. Right now, it's just a draft, by the way. It's not a finalized document. But the fact that they're even circulating this draft is a little wild. Some legal experts are already weighing in and saying this is illegal and they can't do this. And so I encourage you to go read the Ross Dellinger article, which dives much more into this. But I also have trouble seeing how, I think almost all of the teams in the Power Four could just say, no, we're not doing this. Like, we're not signing this, and if we don't sign it, if you don't get a critical mass of schools that are going to sign this, then you have nothing here because, it's going to be a domino effect here. And I think some school chancellors and presidents and such are already starting to balk at this plan a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But it was kind of the first attempt of the conferences to come out and say, we have to rein this under control, the NIL and all of that. We have to have some sort of enforcement mechanism because it's the Wild West, as we've all known for the last 2 years. But they may have gone about it in a really heavy-handed way and also potentially illegal way, which is why I think they circulated a draft first. However, that these conferences have their lawyers on it. And so they didn't do this just willy-nilly. They did this with their lawyers who are, trying to make this a legal document that would hold up in court should it be challenged. But again, if they signed it, these schools would waive their right to sue the College Sports Commission. Yeah, that's what we're calling it. And their right to sue them. So I don't know. It's a whole legal mess. I'm not a lawyer, but it's going to be fascinating to see where this all goes. The first domino that has to fall is this NCAA House settlement. We also, as we mentioned on the show last week, we've got the Presidential Commission about college athletics, which is being headed by Nick Saban. He's recruiting some others to come to it. So we could even see an executive order maybe from the president on college athletics. Who knows? This is a moving target. The sand is moving beneath our feet in college athletics, and we just got to ride the wave. College sports has never been more popular because of all the media behind it. That a big props to the SEC network. They've done an incredible job at elevating SEC sports across the board, not just football. SEC baseball has never been more popular. SEC softball, much more popular because of the SEC network. And then the Big Ten network, right? They've done a lot. So there's kind of a rising tide lifts all boats, but we are in a place where there are holes starting to be poked in the boats. And we just hope that we can make sure we seal those and get this legal stuff out of the way, hopefully soon. I mean, gosh, if this stuff lasts another 2, 3, 4 years, I think we're all going to be super fatigued from it. So we'd love to hear from you guys on it and what your thoughts are on it. You can go to @Biscuits SEC on Instagram or on Twitter. Shoot us a tweet and let us know what your thoughts are here on what's going on with the NCAA and all that jargon and mess that I just laid out for you. Would love to hear from you guys and what your thoughts are. And if your interest in college athletics is waning at all, or even with all this stuff going on, it's never been stronger, and you still love your team and love the SEC and love watching it, because look, I still do, even with all this stuff going on. They haven't lost a viewer in me, that's for sure. So, all right, that will do it here for our recorded show. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys again so much for joining us. I'm sorry we couldn't go live tonight, but we should be back next week for our typical time going live. Rick and Bonnie, we missed you. We'll be sure to see you guys next week, but I'm sure you guys will watch the recording and look forward to having you guys live next week, along with all of our other fans who watch. We've had a great run here over the last. This is our 32nd show, so it's been a great run over the last 32 shows. We're not done. We're going to keep going and continue to build this Biscuits SEC platform, which has been a lot of fun. And we know we have a lot of good listeners out there. We've hit over 200 viewers on multiple shows now, which has been great. So continue to tell your friends about us, and continue to make sure you go and sign up for the newsletter here. Again, biscuitssec.com/newsletter. You can sign up the Morning Biscuits newsletter. That comes to you on Wednesdays during the off season, and then on Monday and Friday during the season, football season, because, hey, we love all sports here at Biscuits and SEC, but we all know football is king in the SEC. So be sure to sign up for that. Also, check us out at Biscuits and SEC across platforms. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit that bell as well so that you don't miss when our shows are live. And as always, too, we are brought to you by the Steer Agency. Do one more ad read for those guys. Football is all about strategy, just like winning in business, whether you're dialing up the perfect play on Saturdays or looking to dominate in public affairs, PR, or digital marketing. You need a team that delivers results. That's where the Steer Agency comes in. They craft winning strategies that get you seen, heard, and ahead of the competition. Don't just play the game, control it. Visit thesteeragency.com today and take your brand to the next level. Okay, thank you again to the Steer Agency. You can check them out, thesteeragency.com. That should do it for us this week. Again, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. For Bossman and Hammer from the road, we will see you guys next week. Enjoy the SEC tournament.